Hello there, how's it going? I suppose you know what I'm going to talk about. The excellent hockey game yesterday. In case you live under a rock, it was Boston Bruins versus St. Louis Blues at TD Garden, and the next game is scheduled for tomorrow. A lot of people have said a lot of things, and just because somebody says something, it doesn't necessarily make it true. I haven't heard too much talk about Blues. It's more towards the negativity towards Boston and how everyone hates them. I live in Vancouver, so a lot of people hate them. But what little I have heard specifically about the Blues, it's been they suck. And that actually isn't true. They played good hockey. It didn't exactly go their way in the third period for sure. In the second period, they were kind of going. But in the first period, they were the better team than Boston. They made it an entertaining series to start out, and I'd be happy with a Game 7. I want a show. I want to be entertained. There are some people who, when they think of the Stanley Cup or any championship whatsoever, they think about the victory and hoisting the Stanley Cup. And the path to getting there should be good too. It should be entertaining hockey. It's not something that people should consider as bragging rights that the city they live in or cheer for has won the Stanley Cup and that's all they have to remember about it. No. I want an entertaining series. And when Boston played Vancouver, it was very entertaining for Boston, but as a Vancouver fan, it was very, very dry and annoying and slow. Complete opposite for Boston, but I think you get what I mean when I say that. And the thing is, I've been wearing this jersey. Quite often I wear jerseys with coats. I'm a little more reserved than a lot of people would think, based on the fact this is over a $200 shirt. So normally I like wearing it with a coat, but it's not happening in summertime unless I want to get the heat stroke, which I don't really want to do. I mean, I drink plenty of water, but it was 24 degrees yesterday. Yeah, so I'm wearing this. It's Brad Marchand, the most hated Boston Bruin player, one of the top players on the Boston roster, and also was one of the few players, not few, but one of the lesser players that is still on the team that won the Cup in 2011. I had this patch put on. And I did banish this jersey to the Hall of Shame in one of my earlier videos a while back. But I've since changed my mind about that because I started thinking a different philosophy, and you're going to have to, bear with me on this one. Sometimes you will notice that anyone who collects jerseys quite often doesn't have a name attached to them. Or if they do, they'll have, like the hallmark names. They'll have like Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr, names like that, names anybody would know. I suppose in New York they have Mark Messier and probably Edmonton too. Those are probably common names. I mean, Trevor Linden here in Vancouver would be a common name if somebody was predisposed to wearing a jersey as frequently as I do. So anyway, some people, and THG, the hockey guy, I don't ever see him really wearing names on his jerseys, and it might be because he doesn't want to particularly associate with that player, especially if there's any story to be told about that particular player. And, I don't think that way, but, I think it makes the jersey look a lot better to have a name on it. That's the way I look at it. And so, I started having to think of other reasons why I'd be wearing this jersey. I mean, I paid for it. It's my jersey. I'll do what I want with it. Brad Marchand, very irritating player for most people. He helps the Boston Bruins win games. Talented player. He didn't score any goals yesterday. None that really counted anyway. And empty netters, anyone could have got that theoretically. But he did play. He didn't do anything particularly remarkable. But he was there. So, leadership and all that sort of stuff. And for some reason I got this impression, maybe it's some sort of alcohol-induced hallucination or something like that, that he's some sort of, like vampire with superhuman strength. I don't know what it is. It's definitely, I don't think that often, but, it's one of them things, he would be talented player to have on a hockey team, and as I said before, he's Brad Marchand may be a homosexual, but it's like whatever. Okay, so that's the part of the video I wanted to briefly talk about, and then that was it. The game itself, it was at a good pace. Out of the gate there was action going on. There was a lot of physicality, a lot of good chances. The Boston Bruins, they hit the post earlier on in a very close chance to tie the game at the time. And there was another one where it was almost getting past Binghamton, but they swept it up before anything happened of it. It didn't matter anyway. The Bruins were able to muster up some more shots, more opportunities, and a few goals, and they were able to win the game. And I actually got this channel that I watched on. I didn't watch on CBC. I don't know, something about my CBCs, they don't have the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't know why. I think I got like a different version or something like that. I didn't think that was even possible, but I guess it is. So I watched an American station with it, and it had Mark Emmerich on it. Oh, I can't stand Mark Emmerich. He's worse, I think, than Brad Marchand. He's got the most irritating, monotone, boring way of talking about the NHL. And I know him all too well because of the NHL games that came out on the PS4. He's got a very librarian type of voice, and it's not interesting to listen to. No, not in the slightest. So I'm gonna have to put up with him for every game because I don't watch too much hockey because I don't, sent to commentary, involuntary celibate, and all that sort of stuff, all that jazz. I don't have anybody to watch it with. My old man doesn't want to watch hockey. He's into mysteries and that sort of stuff, and I suppose like CSI type shows, like Old Man NCIS things. That's like something an old man would watch. I don't watch NCIS, but very little of it anyway. Yeah, so I don't really have anyone to watch hockey with. So I'll watch the clips on the internet and things like that, but to sit down and I'm a working man, so 55-hour work weeks with travel, it takes a lot to sit down and for 2 hours and commit to something like hockey where the game could be boring. But this is the Stanley Cup Finals, and it's fine if you're having beers, eating pizza perhaps, and you're with some friends, that's alright. But if you're there on your own, that would be a little bit depressing. Not to say that what I'm doing in my pastime is depressing, because it's not, but it could be better, obviously. Sore throat, sent to commentary, involuntary celibate. Those are 3 things you totally don't want. And those were all artificially given to me as well. However, I think it's given me other strength, and I don't know, maybe perhaps I'm some sort of metaphorical caricature of this Starscream individual from Transformers. There are different versions of Starscream, so you must remember that, and there's different stories, and everybody has their own interpretation of that, and I'm not going to specifically talk about that right now. What I will say though is, if you don't mind, I would like a beer, because this room is actually a little more warm than I would like it. Not really a fan of summer weather. I've been trying to be outside a bit more and get some natural light going on. Because yeah, my skin is a bit on the pale side, but that's okay. Yeah, because vitamin D would be good. I've been taking a vitamin D supplement for that. I think that's been doing me good, although I haven't really noticed anything. It's better than nothing. I simply don't have the time and space to be outside too much, and also with my physical limitations, it's is an issue. But yeah, someday that'll get better. As far as the NHL is concerned, there was other things that were going on as well. During the game, especially on the American News Network. I don't know about the Canadian one. I'll have to ask some people I know what they saw, because they were watching the game too. Probably would have listened to different commentators or something like that. And I happened to notice that there were a lot of Negros who were in the commercials, and there was a rapper, a Negro rapper, because there can be white rappers. I don't have any respect for them, but there can be white rappers. And this includes Eminem, so you know. Anyway, there was a Negro rapper who was performing terrible music. Ugh, that's where I muted it. I even left the anthem on, and I hate the American anthem. I don't like the Canadian one either. It gets very, very droll and tiresome. But anyway, I happened to notice that there were a lot of Negros in every commercial, and all the white guys all either look like douchebags or were non-existent in the commercials. And it's like, we get it. You're black. You want to be part of the scene. It's like, if black guys aren't involved in the scene, somehow it's racist, even though that's not. And, I understand from their perspective, like, they want to be where the money is. Who doesn't want to be where the money is? However, it is a big commitment to actually watch and enjoy and feel like you're welcomed in an atmosphere that is not about you. So, the news networks and the NHL try to, add the Negro element to not just the Boston Bruins, but also the National Hockey League in this sense. And it's like, a lot of Negros, they don't actually like the NHL, and in particular in Boston they don't. And in particular in Boston, it's an Irish town. There are a lot of black people there too, and they dislike each other quite a lot. And right now, because I'm in Vancouver, everyone's talking about the Toronto Raptors, because they've made it to the finals, and they're gonna play Golden State. I've invested so little interest in what goes on in the NBA, you have no idea. I don't find it entertaining whatsoever. A lot of people do, and guess what? They can do that away from me, because I don't want to be part of that scene. And I don't want to be with people who think that that is the way it should be. Life's been great for them or whatever, and they go, well, it doesn't really matter if there's undertones of racism in this, because there definitely is. Maybe a person, from my perspective, does have a bias, but at the same time, there are solid reasons for not liking the NBA. And saying, oh, it's because it's American, isn't it? No, not really. I don't like Negros. Negros don't like me, and I don't like them. And as I've said in previous videos, a bit of rotten old Negro snatch doesn't make things, it doesn't even things up after what happened to me. That's most certainly how a lot of them think in the reverse situation. I'd like to say, well, I'm everything they're not, polar opposites. But then people start going, well, you know, opposites attract, and you know, all this other bullshit, and blah blah blah. And it's like, take your dime store psychology and fuck off. Stay fucked off. Don't ever show your face around me again. Fuck off. Yeah, well, you know, people are like that. And it feels like a story that they really want to tell me, and it's like, I don't want to hear this story. This story's stupid, and it was written by a fucking retarded monkey. And I don't care who wrote it or why, I don't want to hear it. And yeah, on the American news stations, it's like they will not let it go, and it's like, who's really behind this? Do the blacks have that much sway in the United States politics? Absolutely not. It's more that every other country in the world is going, oh, but this is progressive. We have to set an example, since the United States is supposedly the fighter of the free world and this, that, and the other. And it's very multicultural, man. And as I've said in previous videos, I live in Vancouver, you know, in Canada, and that's another previous video I made. Canada and the United States, only superficially different. You know, when you get to the nitty gritty, as far as the army goes and that sort of stuff, no, they're not different. So there's a lot of outside forces putting pressure on us to be more accommodating to the black folk. And there are, you know, bleeding hearts going, oh, well, look how bad things have been for blacks, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Don't want to hear it. Don't want people drawing comparisons. Woman puts on black rap music. Guess what? You can take your rap music and you can leave. Because I'm not putting up with it. And, you know, they have their ways to go, well, you either adapt and start putting up with this, or they're going to leave and no one else is going to show up because they'll turn around and make up whatever story they want, and, you know, it's just one big goddamn problem. Yeah, that was another subject I didn't want to talk about. You know, obviously talking about the hockey game is important, but, you know, I'm talking about things as a whole, the entirety of the problems and the, you know, the benefits and the good things and all that other sort of stuff, and what's going on with me. So, you know, this video is not entirely, you know, there's more to hockey than what you see on the television. And do not draw the comparison, well, he's wearing a shirt that's mostly black, that means he's a black guy, doesn't it? It's like, well, don't you feel special? Did you go to one of them fancy classes for that? Because I think you're a retard. Anyway, I'm so tired of this subject, you know. It's something that, it's a nagging problem. A lot of my problems in life are nagging ones. They're not actually, you know, problems I should be concerned with, but they keep nagging me. Sore throat, nagging problem. Sense of commentary, nagging problem. I don't like internet porn, I dislike internet porn. I could go the rest of my life without it if, you know, there were women around, it was a normal social scene. And I won't even talk about that. Nagging problem. Yeah, and then involuntary celibate, nagging problem. These problems just simply do not go away because people don't want them to go away, because we don't live in a civilized society and we're not past prejudice or discrimination, not by a long shot. And, you know, persons in my position are almost guided towards hate and despise. Because what choice does there seem to be? I'm not seeing any other alternatives that are realistic from my perspective. And the crowds as a whole, you know, the mob, the masses, stupid fucking pack of mosquitoes, all of them. And the ones from Africa have AIDS and malaria. Well, they don't have AIDS, but, you know, you wouldn't want to be bitten by a mosquito that bit somebody else with the AIDS. I think that wouldn't be transferable, but, you know, I don't 100% know that. I think oxygen is something. Anyway, you dang well know what I meant with a goddamn insult. Ugh. Frustrating problems. But I'm not a hateful person. I don't hate black people. I simply don't feel anything for their problems. And I'm certainly not, taking one for the team, to better their situation as a way of compensation because of the way how other white people may have treated them. That shit ain't got nothing to do with me. And it's going to stay that way. I have to get rid of certain people who are in this circle, this cult of personality, I guess I'll call it, out of this scene because they have the wrong ideological beliefs. And the problem with this, recurring problems, is that it's still, monotone nagging. And, I'm afraid the nagging isn't going to go away even when it's not monotone. It's going to get up in my face, it's going to give me attitude, it's going to be this, that, and the other, and I'm going to have to respond to that. And, I'm thinking of the best ways of doing that. I'm trying to keep myself in shape. I've actually been working on my posture. But this thing basically, it goes on your back, okay? It's $10 on Amazon, and, it pulls the shoulders back. I don't know, I have no idea if that's good for your back or not. So, I'm not, entirely for that. However, I don't want my side, because looking at me from the side, I don't look so handsome. And I'd like to look as handsome as I can. You gotta take things into consideration. Most people in the world, doesn't matter what color, race, or creed they are ugly. Anyway. And, around here we don't have a lot of Negroes, even though I think Negroes are ugly. We've got a lot of Asians, and specifically from Hong Kong and things like that, and they do influence politics, and we do have to push back. Not dissimilar to, the Spartans in the 300 when the Persians showed up. Although it doesn't have to be so dramatic as Gerald Butler's version, but you know what I mean. They're trying to push us out of this port city and conquer it for themselves. They're constantly trying to do this. They have to benefit their situation, to impress the glorious People's Republic. Which gets me back to the point of outside influences giving the black community in Africa the boost that it needed to be more successful in white man politics. And, white man, white woman, politics, But people don't listen. They don't listen. And my battery's running low. I could continue talking, but it is flashing and I do not want this to cut out right here. So I'm going to have a toast to the Boston Bruins winning this game. I hope it goes to Game 7 because I want a show. And could you lay off with the Negro propaganda involved in the TV series? You're distracting us from the main issue here, and it's annoying. Anyway, cheers.